When this guy steps into prison, trouble comes looking for him. The other inmates aim to cause him some serious pain, but his buddy steps up and swings a hit at the troublemaker's head. He keeps at it until that guy hits the floor. Scared of the man, the other inmates hand back the guy's glasses. Once he's got those glasses on, he strolls out into the yard feeling victorious. They catch a breather, but the gang that started it all isn't giving up. Soon, a bunch of big dudes surround them by the bathroom door. Our hero calmly takes off his glasses. Then he goes all in, taking down each one of those guys on his own. His hits are brutal. He even blinds one by poking his fingers in his eyes. The warden rushes in to stop the chaos, but our hero's already finished the job with his mad fighting skills. The warden had only to clean up the mess afterward. They put him in solitary confinement. The guy who rescued his friend from those criminals is Jack Reacher, an ex-soldier who was unfortunately arrested for murder charge. Earlier today, this guy enters town all set for a good lunch, but just as he's about to dig in, the place gets swarmed by sirens. Cops storm in, waving a gun and accusing him of murder. They order him to surrender. He calmly settles the bill. He follows their orders and ends up at the police station. Chief Detective Oscar Finley takes charge of the interrogation. That's when Reacher gets hit with the news about a recent murder in town. The body was found near an overpass by the highway. It is hidden by cardboard. The victim is a guy in his 30s. He took 2 close-range shots to the back of the head and got a brutal beating after death. The police finger Reacher as a suspect for 2 reasons. First, someone spotted a dude of similar height wandering the highway earlier. Secondly, Reacher's army background apparently makes him seem capable of pulling off a murder and covering it up. Reacher maintains his composure despite the accusations. Initially, he disproves the charges, and then proceeds to establish his innocence by reconstructing the crime from the available evidence. In his narrative, he theorizes that 3 individuals were involved in the crime. First, a proficient shooter who was skillful with firearms and collected the brass. The second one is a psycho responsible for the post-mortem beating, and a third person who concealed the body beneath cardboard. Reacher argues that a psychologically disturbed person wouldn't logically think to hide the body. He reinforces his belief that 3 culprits were at play, clearing him from direct involvement. Although Detective Finley acknowledges the compelling details, he remains stubborn and refuses to release Reacher. According to Finley, Reacher still matches the description of someone seen walking near the highway close to where the body was discovered. In his defense, Reacher admits to walking into town from the bus and crossing the highway. However, he denies being the murderer. The interrogation shortly ends when Detective Finley tracks down the man whose number was found in the dead man's shoe. The man is Paul Hubble. He is visibly anxious and spooked by a car parked outside his house. Without thinking much, he swiftly confesses to the murder. He's taken away, and Reacher is freed. But despite Hubble's confession, the cops remain unconvinced he's the actual killer. Desperate to leave town, Reacher finds himself still under suspicion by Detective Finley. Using his sharp observation skills, Reacher spins another theory to assist the cops in cracking the case. He points out an unusual exchange between Hubble and another cop, Stevenson, during Hubble's entry to the station. Reacher suspects there's something they're hiding. Stevenson gets summoned and grilled in the office. He discloses an unexpected connection. Hubble and he are married to cousins. The previous night, Hubble had been with them at a family gathering. Stevenson assures of Hubble's family-oriented nature, puzzled as to why Hubble would confess to the murder. He affirms he's not the kind of guy to do such a thing. To get to the bottom of why Hubble confessed, Finley decides to lock him up. Reacher ends up there too, as Chief Morrison wants him in custody until his bus arrival is confirmed. The 2 suspects find themselves in jail, greeted by the arrogant jailer, Spivey. He shows them their cell. The following day, they face the jail's bully. Hubble becomes the target. They try to take advantage of him, but Reacher steps in. They try to mock him, unaware he is the most brutal army veteran. He delivers a much-needed lesson. He even took their glasses. In the yard, Hubble opens up about his confession. He reveals he's a currency manager. He forced into assisting some people with a financial scheme. They made it crystal clear that if he dared to hinder their scheme, they would nail him to a wall and kill his family. While Reacher and Hubble are in jail, Reacher catches wind of a gang keeping tabs on them. In an attempt to avoid confrontation, they head to the bathroom. However, the gang follows them, triggering a brawl. Using his combat skills, Reacher takes on the gang. He throws punches and kicks with precision. He uses his brutal combination of skills to beat them. Meanwhile, Detective Finley and Officer Roscoe Conklin uncover Reacher's remarkable military history. They discover that he's been honored with almost every medal in the Army. The next day, Reacher finds himself released from jail as the police secure CCTV footage. He is found at the bus station on the night of the murder, finally clearing him of suspicion. Reacher is relaxing in the town when Kleiner Jr., a wealthy figure from Kleiner Industries, approaches him. Kleiner throws shade, reminding Reacher about the murder charges from his Army days that mysteriously vanished. With a warning to watch his back, Kleiner leaves in his fancy truck. Reacher heads back to the police station to pick up Officer Roscoe for dinner, but is met with news of another murder in town. It is conducted the same as the previous one. Detective Finley inquires Reacher about any intel from Hubble, but Reacher stays quiet despite holding information about the case. Later, he joins the officers at the forensic lab and notices a familiar mark on the first victim's hand. Upon closer inspection, Reacher is shocked to discover that the deceased is none other than Joe, his own brother. The sight leaves Reacher reeling from the weight of this devastating loss. That evening, Reacher heads back to his motel, but runs into a group of local thugs who have pinned the town's murders on him. Their terrorization doesn't faze Reacher. He effortlessly handles them and resolves to crack the case of his brother's murder. Officer Roscoe keeps an eye on him, trailing in her car to prevent any rash actions. Together, they visit Hubble's residence to dig deeper. Hubble's wife discloses his absence, mentioning he hasn't returned home yet. Seizing a moment, Reacher excuses himself to the bathroom and covertly searches the house. Eventually, he stumbles upon Hubble's shoes and notices a seed is stuck to them. Reacher shares his discovery with Roscoe, who identifies it as something typically found in tall grass. To check if the grass grows at Joe Reacher's murder site, they head there. Amongst the grass, Reacher spots Joe's footprints. They uncover a chilling detail. The killer waited for Joe's arrival before striking. The next day, Reacher pays a visit to the police station, only to learn of Chief Morrison's murder. Alongside Officer Roscoe, they rush to the scene where Chief Morrison's body is found. It is gruesomely nailed to the wall, mirroring the exact threat made to Hubble. When questioned by Finley, Reacher discloses his reasons for keeping silent earlier. He reveals that his brother, associated with some agency, didn't trust the police enough to disclose his activities in the town. Therefore, Reacher questions why he should trust them. Suspicions rise as Reacher points out the potential involvement of Chief Morrison as a corrupt cop. It possibly linked to the same killer Hubble is entangled with. Reacher connects the dots, theorizing that Morrison's murder was a brutal display intended to send a message on behalf of the killer's organization. In a surprising move, Mayor Teal seizes the position of chief of the police for himself, rather than appointing Finley as the new chief after Morrison's death. This unexpected power grab hints at his involvement as a corrupt cop alongside Stevenson and Baker. To complicate matters further, Teal forbids any contact with federal agencies like the FBI. He opts to keep everything in-house. Feeling the weight of corruption within the system, Finley, Roscoe, and Reacher collectively decide to maintain the investigation's progress among themselves. The danger surrounding Hubble escalates after Morrison's death, prompting Reacher and Roscoe to check on him. They head to his house only to find he hasn't returned home. Meanwhile, Finley attends a crucial meeting with Teal and realizes the extent of Teal's attempts to sabotage the murder investigation. Teal refuses to connect the dots between the four murders. He is trying to frame Morrison's case as a mere act of revenge. To delve deeper into the case independently, Reacher poses as Detective Finley and arranges a meeting with Spivey. He is the jailer who had placed him and Hubble in the wrong cell, that leading to the attack they faced. Suspecting foul play, Reacher meets Spivey. It turns out that he has come prepared. As Spivey leaves, two thugs attempt to force Reacher into a car trunk. As he refuses to comply, a fight ensues. Reacher manages to overpower one of the men, knocking him down, but he takes a hit to the head from the other before gaining the upper hand. He escapes before the cops arrive. Back at the station, he receives treatment for his injuries from Roscoe. He shares his suspicion that the South American military might be involved, given the similarity between the men he fought and soldiers from that region. Meanwhile, Roscoe and Finley uncover information about Joe's past as a Secret Service agent, but details about his work remain unknown. Exhausted from the weight of his brother's death and the case, Reacher decides to unwind at a bar. Finley is concerned about Reacher's impulsiveness, so he sends Roscoe to keep an eye on him. The two end up having drinks together. Due to bad weather, Roscoe is forced to stay at a motel with Reacher for the night. Returning to Roscoe's house the next day, they discover signs of forced entry. Investigation reveals that someone infiltrated her home the previous night, leaving a threatening message. The note promises a return visit with fatal consequences for Roscoe. Recognizing the escalating danger, Roscoe hands over her spare pistol to Reacher. Fearing for Roscoe's safety, Reacher suggests she pack her bags and relocate to a motel to avoid the impending threat. As they delve further into the investigation, Reacher, Roscoe, and Finley pay a visit to the forensic expert, Jasper. There, they uncover details about the second victim, Pete Jobling. He is an ordinary truck driver with a mostly clean record, except for a minor 2018 arrest for a traffic violation that mounted into a disorderly conduct charge. The odd part is that Jobling was represented by a high-profile legal firm, an unlikely choice for a truck driver's defense. Amidst this revelation, Roscoe receives an unexpected call from Molly Beth, a specialized administrative officer within the Secret Service. Molly reached out in response to Roscoe's message regarding Joe's whereabouts. Reacher then discloses to Molly the tragic news of Joe's demise, leaving her stunned as she was in a relationship with Joe. When questioned about Joe's visit to the town, Molly discloses that he was engaged in a classified investigation. Unfortunately, she lacks specific details. She further tells the trio that Joe served as the director of the Office of Investigation and headed their anti-counterfeiting department. According to Molly, Joe had informed her that he had successfully stopped all domestic counterfeiting and shifted his focus to international operations. Reacher quickly connects the dots, realizing that Joe might have been investigating the South American. He urges Molly to promptly send him hard copies of Joe's files, hoping to gain insights into the case Joe was working on, and potentially link it to the ongoing investigation. Finley decides to pay a visit to Spivey's house, only to find it deserted except for a call log indicating contact with Kleiner Industries. Soon after, he becomes the target of an attack by South American police who misunderstand him for a thief, but it was evident that they deliberately engaged in aggression. Simultaneously, Reacher heads to the law firm to dig into Pete Jobling's traffic violation case. Faced with a refusal to provide the case file, Reacher takes matters into his own hands. He uses the phone cord to suffocate the lawyer until he gains access to the crucial information. In the midst of this, Roscoe plays a double game. She pretends to comply with Teal's orders while secretly collaborating with Finley on a different agenda. Stevenson attempts to pry into the case's progress, but Roscoe denies any association with Finley. She maintains her lie for the time being. During lunch, the trio shares the information they've gathered on the case. Reacher discloses a crucial connection. Pete Jobling worked for a company contracted to Kleiner Industries in the town. Notably, when Jobling faced legal trouble, Kleiner footed the bill for his legal fees. The presence of Kleiner Industries in Spivey's call logs, and this financial link raises suspicions that Kleiner Industries might be involved in counterfeiting. The possibility of counterfeiting implies fraudulent imitation of trusted brands, which is a severe crime. Considering Joe's role in the anti-counterfeiting department, it aligns with the possible case Joe was investigating before his demise. The pieces start to fit together, hinting at a complex web of fraudulent activities tied to Kleiner Industries. Reacher and Finley head to Kleiner Industries to seek answers. Welcomed by Mr. Kleiner's assistant, they enter a hallway adorned with deer heads. It hints at the Kleiner family's history as skilled marksmen, fitting the murder suspect's description. As Finley asks about the truck driver's traffic violation case, Kleiner brushes it off. He claims to assist drivers in smooth business operations. When Finley persists, Kleiner subtly warns against further questions. He emphasizes his contributions to the town. It feels like a threat, signaling the cops to stay away. Tension escalates as Kleiner abruptly kicks Reacher and Finley out of the building, feeling humiliated. To dig into Spivey's whereabouts, Reacher hits up the pub he frequented. Inquiring with one of Spivey's associates yields no results, prompting Reacher to resort to force. Taking matters into his own hands, he confronts the man and employs a bit of beating that lands the informant on the ground. The information reveals that Spivey has departed the town. As Reacher exits the pub, he notices someone observing him. Suspecting foul play, he retraces his steps and grabs latex gloves from the kitchen. Steering away from the market area, he lures the pursuers in a car chase. Strategically abandoning his moving vehicle, he positions himself for the incoming threat. As the armed men approach, Reacher skillfully shoots them from behind. After ensuring the removal of any traces, Reacher collects the spent bullet shells. He then dons the latex gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints on the bodies and inspects them. Intent on concealing the evidence, he attempts to stash the bodies in the car trunk. To his astonishment, the open trunk reveals Spivey's lifeless body. Without wasting time, Reacher smashes the phones of the men and swiftly checks the trunk. To his surprise, he discovers surveillance equipment. It indicates that their every move was closely monitored by the organization. To dispose of the bodies, he stuffs them into the trunk. Facing a spatial challenge with 3 bodies, Reacher resorts to breaking a man's leg to make them fit. Meanwhile, Kleiner Jr. approaches Roscoe and cautions her about Reacher's past murder accusations. Reacher then gets a call from Finley, who shares startling news about Hubbell's deceit. It turns out that he hasn't worked at the bank for a year. He has kept it a secret from his wife. Finley also shares intel on a rental car possibly linked to Joe. The duo arrives at the burnt car location. Searching the car, Reacher creates a ketchup salt mixture to reveal the plate's hidden details beneath the burnt surface. Roscoe arrives, and together, they debate if the car belongs to Joe. Reacher discloses his recent act of self-defense, having killed 2 South American men. It enrages Finley, as he wants to solve the case quickly so that more deaths can be prevented. In a bid to dispose of the bodies, Reacher and Roscoe swiftly plan their next move. As Roscoe opens the car trunk, she's stunned to find the men shot from behind. This contradicts Reacher's claim of self-defense. It deepens Roscoe's suspicion about his past military murders, further fueled by Kleiner Jr.'s narrative. Reacher opens up to Roscoe, recounting a moment from his time in Baghdad. He describes how he used to interact with the local kids, waving to them during his duties. One night, he witnesses some locals abusing the children. He intervened. Things escalated, leading the men to turn violent and attempt to end Reacher's life. In self-defense, he took action. It resulted in the deaths of the 3 assailants. Despite the grim outcome, Reacher firmly believes he did the right thing. Roscoe grasps the gravity of the situation and empathizes with Reacher's actions. She understands the necessity of his response to protect the innocent. The duo make their way to the airport to hide the bodies, executing a plan to evade detection. Reacher sabotages the CCTV cameras by tampering with the wires, diverting the guards' attention. Maneuvering the car into the parking lot, Roscoe erases any fingerprints and removes the number plate. Meanwhile, as the guard focuses on fixing the cameras, Reacher switches the car's number plate with another vehicle's. With the bodies disposed of, they opt to stay at a hotel. Reacher strategically places toothpicks in the door hinges to create noise if someone tries to force entry. This setup buys him time to arm himself for defense. Additionally, he secures the door with a chair and tightly closes the curtains using a hanger, fortifying their temporary shelter. Amidst these precautions, a call from Molly informs them about successfully gathering Joe's work files. The next day, Reacher and Roscoe visit the truck driver's residence, discovering surprising revelations. Surprisingly, the wife shows no sorrow at her husband's death. In their upscale home, Judy reveals Pete's involvement in shady business. As Reacher digs deeper into Pete's business, Judy reveals that he was selling air conditioners. However, when she leads them to the garage, they find only boxes, no air conditioning units. This discrepancy raises suspicions, especially considering Pete's 2 luxurious houses. Reacher connects the dots, suspecting a link to the counterfeit cash for Kleiner. He theorizes that the bills might be manufactured in South America and then shipped to Florida. Pete's role would involve driving down with the air conditioner boxes as a cover story, allowing him to transport the fake cash back to Kleiner. While it remains a theory, Reacher finds it reasonable given the circumstances. After leaving Pete's home, the duo meets Picard, who shares crucial information about the burnt car. It belongs to Joe. The car is traced to a motel near the town where Joe stayed. Suspecting he might not have checked out and left something behind, Roscoe and Reacher head to the motel. Reacher knows Joe's habit of keeping notes. At the motel, they learn from the receptionist that Joe did leave a briefcase and a garment bag. However, someone had already picked them up half an hour ago. Thinking like his brother, Reacher speculates that Joe might have stashed notes in the garment bag. It is because the bag is an overlooked spot for important information. Checking the dumpsters, Reacher finds the garment bag. As they search through it, they discover a note. Before they can comprehend its significance, the organization's men attack. Bullets fly, forcing Reacher and Roscoe to take cover behind a car. To divert the attention and protect Roscoe, Reacher runs in the opposite direction with the note. The men pursue him, firing continuously until their car gets stuck. Seizing the opportunity, Reacher retaliates and eliminates one of the attackers. Witnessing his cousin's death, the other man pursues Reacher. He attacked, breaking the man's arm and disarming him. However, the man still poses a threat with a spare gun. Before he can act, Roscoe intervenes and shoots the man dead. Angry at Reacher for risking his life to save hers, she asserts her independence and refuses to be cared for more than their own lives. It's in this intense moment that Reacher reveals his emotions, expressing his reluctance to lose anyone else. He's already experienced loss and doesn't want to let go of those he cares about, especially Roscoe. It's revealed through Finley's call that Stevenson intercepted Picard's call and funneled it to the main line. This suggests that the organization might have eavesdropped and gathered information about the meeting location. Utilizing parabolic microphones, Kleiner's men might have overheard details about Joe's motel stay. It allowed them to arrive ahead of Reacher and Roscoe, lying in wait to ambush them. This revelation implies that the organization is meticulously monitoring their every move. As the trio gathers at a farmhouse to decipher the cryptic note from Joe's garment bag, they unravel a sequence of digits and abbreviations. Upon investigation, they realize the abbreviations correspond to college professors' names alongside their phone numbers. The third abbreviation points to a number associated with the Memphis Environmental Protection Agency. This confuses them, as the connection between their counterfeiting case and professors, along with an environmental agency, seems mysterious. In need of someone trustworthy to delve deeper into this puzzle, Reacher reaches out to his old friend, Francis Neagley. Sharing all the information, he tasks Neagley with unraveling the mystery and gathering further details. The trio then goes to the train station to pick up Molly, who is arriving with Joe's files. At the train station, the trio show up just as Molly does. Unfortunately, they lose her at the escalator. Sensing trouble, Reacher descends and discovers Joe's suitcase on the train tracks, files nowhere in sight. Following the tracks, he stumbles upon Molly, who is bleeding from the stomach by the side of the track. Tragically, she succumbs to her injuries on the spot. It leaves our trio back at square one with more questions than answers. Consumed by anger after Molly's death, Reacher seeks solace at a farm. There, he notices the same distinctive seed stuck to him as was found on Hubbell's shoe. Observing the frequent presence of animal feed trucks near Kleiner Industries since his arrival, he senses an underlying unknown activity. His focus shifts when he witnesses Roscoe's truck painted with the word whore, immediately suspecting Kleiner Jr.'s involvement. Confronting Kleiner Jr. at a restaurant, things escalate quickly when Kleiner Jr. speaks ill of Roscoe. It prompts Reacher to deliver a hard slap. A scuffle ensues between Reacher and the group accompanying Kleiner Jr. Despite being outnumbered, Reacher manages to take each of them down. The situation intensifies when Kleiner Jr. grabs a butter knife in a desperate attempt to defend himself. Just as things seem to spiral out of control, Finley and Roscoe arrive and stop the fight. Mr. Kleiner interjects, attempting to frame Reacher and blaming him for the escalating chaos since his arrival in town. The trio faces more setbacks when Roscoe is fired by Mayor Teal for the file mix-up and alleged deception. Determined to uncover the truth, they delve into Joe's punch list. They specifically focus on Gray's mention and his potential files. Gray, Roscoe's father's best friend and a former detective, had passed away the previous year. He left behind only a pistol that Roscoe had given to Reacher earlier. Upon closer inspection of the pistol's box, Reacher discovers a hidden compartment containing a key. Though Roscoe is convinced she doesn't possess a locker, Reacher recalls Roscoe mentioning Gray's weekly habit of getting a trim. Reasoning that something might be stored at the barbershop, they visit Mosley, the elderly shop's owner. He shows them a box given to him by Gray. As Roscoe opens it, numerous files are revealed. As they sift through the files to gather evidence against Kleiner Industries, they stumble upon something peculiar. Kleiner had purchased 116 cattle at once. It dawns on them that the number is strategically just below the threshold that triggers state authorities to inspect animal feed shipments. This clever trick allowed Kleiner to bring in a significant amount of animal feed without raising suspicion. The investigation takes a grim turn when Roscoe realizes that Gray didn't die by suicide but was murdered. Seeking answers, she enlists Jasper's help to obtain a picture of Gray's head wound. Upon closer inspection, it becomes evident that he didn't sustain the injury from a fall but was struck by someone. Filled with rage upon discovering the truth about her uncle's death, Roscoe storms to the police station. In a fit of anger and grief, she confronts Mayor Teal and lands several punches in his face. Teal starts bleeding from the nose as chaos erupts. Sensing the imminent consequences, Finley intervenes. He pulls Roscoe away from the escalating situation to prevent her from being arrested. On the other hand, Reacher meets with Neagley and discovers that JW on Joe's note refers to Jimmy Dupree Wilkes. He was an EPA investigator. However, Wilkes was tragically gunned down in his home. The FBI's conclusion of a random robbery seems dubious, considering the murder weapon had a silencer and nothing was taken from his house. The post-mortem beating of the body, mirroring what happened to Joe, raises suspicions. Neagley's investigation traces Wilkes' death back to Clarin Chemicals, a company that Kleiner Industries owned before its quiet dissolution. The company was responsible for illegally dumping toxic substances into the Mississippi River. Now, 2 Memphis patrolmen claim to have a criminal informant willing to reveal details about the EPA investigator's murder. Neagley and Reacher meet with officers, including Ocean, and manage to extract a crucial name, the Viking. However, the situation takes a dark turn when the other officer turns his gun on Ocean. He is also forced to work for Kleiner Industries, just like Hubble. Driven by desperation to protect his family, the officer kills Ocean and plans to eliminate Reacher and Neagley. The confrontation intensifies, leading to a car accident that falls into the river. Initially, the officer pleads for help. However, as Reacher points out the gravity of his actions, the man accepts his fate and decides to stay in the sinking car. Neagley and Reacher manage to escape the water. They change into dry clothes and bid each other farewell. In a daring move, Finley opts for an unauthorized search of Kleiner Industries. Breaking into the building, he is taken aback to discover Mr. Kleiner dead in his chair. The unexpected turn of events adds a layer of mystery to the already complex situation, leaving Finley with more questions than answers. Upon spotting the gash on Kleiner's neck, Reacher suspects the South Americans responsible for this are from Venezuela. Previously, they believed Kleiner orchestrated all the killings, but the true boss has now taken charge. He is possibly discontent with the chaos in town. Reacher anticipates that Kleiner's subordinates might make a mistake due to the leadership shift. It provides them an opportunity to observe the happenings at Kleiner Industries. They secure a rental car and focus on monitoring the truck station outside the building. During their surveillance, Finley opens up about his unexpected career path as a detective in a small town. He reveals it was a deliberate move to escape the haunting memories of his deceased wife in the city. As the truck sets in motion, Reacher pursues it. When the trucker stops at a motel for a break, Reacher seizes the moment. He climbs the vehicle and slices it open to unveil its contents. A sudden twist occurs as the driver emerges to inspect the truck, yet Reacher and Finley manage a slick escape. Reacher then discloses the shocking revelation that the truck is mysteriously empty. Hitting a dead end, Reacher opts to reach out to the professors listed on Joe's note. The first call reveals the unfortunate news. The professor was killed just hours ago. Urgently, he dials the second professor and ensures her safety before heading to the city for a face-to-face meeting. Meanwhile, Roscoe is safeguarding Hubble's wife. She notices a glimmer of light outside the shelter at night. Investigating, she spots 2 men in a car. When they notice her, they start following her. Roscoe takes off, managing to shoot one man down. Attempting to disable the other, she aims for his knee. However, he seeks refuge behind a tree. The situation intensifies as he brandishes a grenade. Quick on her feet, Roscoe shoots him, causing the grenade to drop. Before he can react, it detonates and kills him. Eventually, Roscoe joins Hubble's wife, Charlie, and his girls as they trek through the woods in the morning. Over a meal, Charlie admits to knowing about Paul's deep involvement with Kleiner. Paul was lured by Kleiner to go to Venezuela under the guise of meeting a significant client. While going through financials, the harsh truth hits Hubble. He unwittingly became a part of Kleiner's criminal web. The money he moved was linked to an international counterfeiting scheme, and to solidify his compliance, Kleiner has a man brutally crucified right before Hubble's eyes. It leaves him no choice but to comply with their orders. Soon, Picard joins the duo and ensures the family's safety. Meanwhile, Reacher heads to the city. He locates Professor Castillo at the police station, where she seeks refuge due to impending danger. Castillo is an expert in international and domestic monetary policies. Securing a meeting with her, Reacher learns that she and Joe had been collaborating. Alongside Bryant, the other professor, they assisted Joe with mass undetectable counterfeiting on a global scale. Joe had spotted the production of superbills in Georgia. A chilling realization hits Reacher. He's had everything misunderstood from the start. It turns out that the money is being produced in the US and shipped to Venezuela. As Reacher exits the police station, he senses he's being followed. Ducking into a back alley, a scuffle ensues with the pursuer. Landing a series of punches, he grabs a nearby tire and relentlessly hits the man. In a final decisive move, Reacher uses his tie to secure the assailant to a grill. He ultimately suffocates the man and ends his life on the spot. At night, Stevenson and his pregnant wife are alone at home. A group of men, matching the descriptions of prior murderers, including Morrison's, arrive outside. The next day, Finley picks up Reacher, and together, they visit Stevenson's residence only to discover the couple brutally murdered. The killer orchestrated a gruesome scene. They position mirrors around Stevenson, ensuring he witnessed his wife's agony wherever he turned. Finley believes Stevenson fell victim because they suspected him of collaborating with Reacher and Finley. The killers aimed to extract information from him and resorted to torture when Stevenson remained tight-lipped. Finley faces the consequences of his failure to solve the case as Teal fires him. Teal also warns Reacher to stay out of the investigation, not wanting him involved in any capacity due to his non-cop status. To see Officer Baker's potential involvement with the killers, Reacher arranges a meeting. He plants the idea that Finley is the prime suspect for the murders in Baker's mind. Reacher then reveals his intention to break into Hubbell's house, searching for clues tying him to Finley. Having successfully influenced Baker, he shifts focus to the mechanic who rented him the car during the truck chase. There, he notices an oddity. The mechanic uses kitty litter as an absorbent for spilt oil. Later, Reacher gears up for his late-night visit to Hubbell's house. He acquires a dagger, cranks up the TV volume and paints his face. He then positions himself discreetly outside the residence. Patiently, he lies in wait for Barker's men to accidentally step into his trap. True to his suspicions, Barker reveals himself as a corrupt cop who's leaked information about Reacher's plan to his higher-ups. Among the incoming men is Dawson Kleiner, Kleiner Jr.'s cousin. As the men enter the house, Reacher remains outside and quietly dispatches the driver. Another man meets the same fate as Reacher continues eliminating the bad guys. With stealth, Reacher systematically eliminates each man until Dawson discovers him. A shootout ensues, but Reacher cleverly uses a dead body as a shield to survive Dawson's gunfire. Engaging in a brutal fight, Dawson gains the upper hand with a sharp metal rod. Despite Reacher's attempt to grab a gun, Dawson forcefully kicks him out of the house. He delivers a powerful blow that sends Reacher into a pool. As Dawson moves in to suffocate him, Reacher seizes the opportunity. He grabs the gun submerged in the pool and fires multiple shots at Dawson. With Dawson's demise, the murderous group responsible for the town's spree of killings is finally eradicated. Reacher collects all the guns, stashing them in his car trunk. Due to his fall into the water, the information on Joe's note fades. It allows Reacher to grasp the true nature of Kleiner Industries' activities. He promptly calls Roscoe, enlightening her on the missing link in their investigation. It turns out that all US dollar bills share the same size. Combining this insight with Paul's financial expertise, Reacher deduces that Paul was satisfying Kleiner by providing a fresh supply of $1 bills from cash-intensive industries. These bills were then shipped to Margrave from across the country. Kleiner Chemicals appears to have developed a method to remove ink from the bills, leading them back to animal feed. Animal feed contains an absorbent ingredient that washes off the ink from the $1 bills. Once cleaned, the bills undergo a process of stripping, beating, and reprinting to resemble regular $100 bills. This intricate process unveils a massive counterfeiting scheme orchestrated by Kleiner Industries. The truckers transport the counterfeit money to Florida, where it awaits its final journey overseas to Venezuela. In a tense moment, Reacher briefs Finley about the scheme. However, their conversation is interrupted by three men arriving outside the motel, hunting for Finley. To ensure their survival, Reacher guides Finley through a plan. First, Finley cranks up the TV volume to create a diversion, and then starts breaking through the wall into the adjacent room. After several strikes, he breaks through and flees through the room's window. Before driving off, Finley punctures the assailant's car, tires to delay their pursuit. With quick thinking and decisive action, Finley successfully dodges this life-threatening situation and escapes unharmed. In pursuit of fake cash as crucial evidence, Reacher and Finley follow the lead from Joe's note to Pete Jobling's home. However, they are shocked to discover the house is reduced to ashes. It dawns on Reacher that Pete may have another residence, his parents' place. They arrive at the parents' house and start a thorough search, eventually stumbling upon bundles of counterfeit money. This discovery provides them with concrete evidence against Teal and the Kleiners. Finley is tasked with informing his friend, FBI agent Picard, to discuss the unfolding situation. Simultaneously, Reacher contacts Neagle and uncovers information about the agent who wrongly closed Wilkes' file. Neagle reveals that the agent is deceased, but his partner is still active, none other than Picard. When Reacher catches up with Finley, a shocking revelation awaits. Kleiner Jr., Teal, and Picard, all armed, have them at gunpoint. Unwittingly, Reacher has walked right into a carefully laid trap. In a desperate move to save Finley, Reacher surrenders his pistol. In a shocking turn, Kleiner Jr. shows Ricard a video revealing that Roscoe, Charlie, and the girls are now in his captivity. He coldly admits to killing his own father. The revelation unfolds that it wasn't Venezuelans who ordered the killings, but Kleiner Jr. himself. Driven by a twisted inspiration from their brutal murder techniques, he orchestrated the deaths of his father, Molly, and Joe. Furthermore, KJ confesses hiring Picard's partner to eliminate the Memphis agent. He murdered his own father because he felt the business wasn't being conducted brutally enough to suit his desires. As the elder Kleiner slowed the pace of their operations, the unhinged Kleiner Jr. took matters into his own hands. With Roscoe and the girls under Kleiner's control, Reacher is given the task of locating Hubble. He is still alive and in hiding. Picard is assigned to closely monitor Reacher's every move. Using his sharp intellect, Reacher quickly deduces Hubble's likely hiding place. Seizing an opportune moment in a restaurant, Reacher creates a distraction as a waitress brings a peach pie. It enables him to steal a fork. As they exit, Reacher punctures the car's tire with the fork, which results in a flat tire. While retrieving a spare from the trunk, Reacher gains access to the pistol he stashed there earlier. Playing mind games once again, Reacher manipulates Picard into believing they need each other and should surrender their guns together. Falling for the trick, Picard hands over his weapon, allowing Reacher to shoot him. Reacher makes his way to the city and successfully locates Hubble's hiding spot. Upon finding him, Reacher escorts Hubble back to the town. He briefs him on the unfolding events and exposes Kleiner Jr.'s role in the murders. Amid their conversation, Hubble discloses how he sought assistance from Joe in orchestrating and managing the counterfeit scheme. The situation escalates as Baker tortures Finley. However, Reacher intervenes by crashing a car into Baker, ending his life. Hubble arrives and joins Reacher. Together with Neagle, they prepare for the final confrontation. Arriving outside the company building, Reacher fills a water bottle with petrol and starts a fire inside as a distraction. While Kleiner Jr.'s men are preoccupied with the blaze, Reacher, Neagle, and Finley engage in combat. Hubble focuses on rescuing his family, with Reacher covering Roscoe and Charlie's escape. Finally reunited, Charlie finds solace in embracing her husband after weeks of separation. Meanwhile, amidst the chaos, Roscoe, Finley, Neagle, and Reacher continue battling Kleiner's men. Finley confronts the still-alive Picard. He delivers a punishing blow, and then uses a pressing machine to eliminate him. Roscoe faces off against Teal, initially subduing him, cuffing his hands, and delivering a fatal shot. With the situation intensifying and the building engulfed in flames, Neagle, Finley, and Roscoe manage to escape. In the final showdown between Kleiner Jr. and Reacher, Reacher seizes the advantage. He attacks from behind and knocks Kleiner Jr. to the ground. Despite Kleiner Jr.'s attempts to retaliate, Reacher forces him into a bleach mixture, and then kicks him into the raging fire. The chemical ignites, engulfing Kleiner Jr. in flames. It leads to his demise. The fire spreads, consuming the entire industry. However, Reacher manages to escape unharmed. After spending the night with Roscoe, Reacher pays tribute to Joe's memory by burying the Medal of Bravery in his honor. It is an heirloom from their grandfather, awarded for bravery in the face of danger. Reacher's mother had given him this medal on her deathbed. With the case solved and justice served, Reacher and Roscoe share a goodbye kiss. Reacher hits the road once more, ready to take on the world. The story concludes with Reacher resuming his journey, leaving the town behind as he embarks on new adventures.